4, 3, 2, 1.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the March 9th, 2026 Select Board regular meeting. This is Select Board Chair Josh Levine. I will be confirming that all members and persons anticipated in the agenda are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Dan Zwerko.
Here.
Vinith Mavathi.
Here.
Andrew Lamb.
Here.
Shelley Maynard DeWolf.
Here.
Staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Lynn Simmons.
Here.
Peggy Sheldon.
Here.
And no Mike tonight, right?
No.
This open meeting of the Long Meadow Select Board is convened in person and via Zoom webinar as posted on the agenda and town's website identifying how the public may join. There is no chat or Q&A function. All of the materials for this meeting are available on the agenda posted on longmeadowma.gov. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless I note otherwise. This meeting will feature resident comment. For residents attending the meeting in person, please raise your hand when we get to the comments section of the meeting and I will call on you to approach the microphone. For residents participating in the meeting via Zoom webinar format, please use the raise hand icon at the bottom of the screen. The meeting moderator will promote you to panelist, unmute you, and give you permission to speak. If you join the webinar by phone, dial *9 to raise your hand and *6 to mute, unmute. Residents who wish to speak will identify their names and addresses only. Each individual is afforded 3 minutes for comments. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that some attendees are participating by video conference. Please remember to mute your phone or computer when you are not speaking. If anyone in attendance is recording this meeting, please announce yourself now. Seeing none, we will move on to the Pledge of Allegiance.
I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we'll start with our announcements. Citizen of the Year Award nominations. Nominations for Citizen of the Year Awards are now available and should be submitted by Friday, April 10th, 2026. The awards are presented yearly at the annual town meeting. Citizens are encouraged to submit award nominations for a citizen, community organization, and/or groups who deserve recognition for performing a service or act beyond what is normally expected in service to the town and community. For additional information on award criteria and to submit a nomination, please visit longmeadowma.gov/civic alerts. Community Preservation Committee Spring Application Cycle. The Community Preservation Committee will now be accepting applications to be submitted by April 7th, 2026 for possible consideration at the Fall 2026 Special Town Meeting. The application form and information about the Community Preservation Act process can be found on the Community Preservation page at longmeadowma.gov. All right. First up on the agenda, we have resident comments. You can approach Mr. Shetler. Can you state
34 Ellington Street.
and your name?
My name's Clayton Shetler.
Have a seat, please.
Okay. I have one comment. I'm just wondering when it comes to the water infrastructure, if we've looked into the federal infrastructure law that was passed in 2021, which has allocated tens of billions of dollars by the federal government. That includes that you can be used for pipe replacement, treatment upgrades, system repairs. Is this something we looked into? This is the last year, from what I've seen, where we can get federal funding for this, and towns have been able to cover 30 to 70% of their costs through this program. So that's my comment.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, do we have anything online, Peggy?
We don't.
Okay, let's move on to kudos and plaudits. Thank you to town staff for the Greenwood office flooding. On the morning of February 25th, the air handling unit at the Bliss Conference Room experienced a malfunction in valve, which is designed to allow hot water to flow through the univent coil when the thermostat calls for heat. The valve likely failed to open, trapping stagnant water. Exposure to outside air from the fresh air damper caused the water to cool and eventually freeze. The line then burst, flooding the conference room and the town clerk's office. Fortunately, Treasurer and Collector Erica Brunel was in the building when this happened and noticed the water. She alerted DPW immediately. The town's all-call mechanical contractor repaired, reinstalled the coil. DPW dried the space out and has replaced the compressor unit. They're also checking the other units to ensure we won't experience similar issues. Erica's swift action of alerting DPW about the water allowed the facilities team to arrive on site quickly and assess and remedy the situation before it could arise. Huge thank you to facilities for their work on cleaning up the conference room and office space, and to Erica for her speedy action. I believe Erica was in nice and early for that, right, Len?
Yep.
Yeah, I'm sure, like the rest of the board, I got the email and that this happened and said, oh my God, here we go again. And it wasn't that bad. So thank you to Erica and facilities. That's, did a good work on that. All right, anything else from the rest of the board on that? Okay. Any select board comments? I guess everyone's got somewhere to be after.
You were here last week.
Oh, that's true. Nothing's happened the last week. All right, we have a few applicants for board and committees. And who do we have tonight, Peggy?
We have Ethan, Matthew, and Gary.
Okay, and everyone has, do we have everyone here? Well, let's start with, is Ethan here?
I am here.
Oh, come on up, please.
Okay.
You can sit right up there by a microphone. Hi, could you state your name and address?
Yes, Ethan Kendrick. I am at 50 Warren Terrace.
Great. And why are you interested in the Conservation Commission?
Yeah, so I grew up the road in Shelburne Falls and moved back about 5 years here to Long Meadow from Washington, D.C., and have established roots enough in town here and wanted to be able to give back a little bit, and thought that this is something that my skill sets could be useful for. I have an interest in doing this, and I'm passionate about environmental issues, but understand that there's a lot of pragmatism that needs to be involved. And I was looking around for opportunities to participate in some of the committees in over the last couple of years, and this opening seemed something that piqued my interest. And I'm happy to chat a little bit more about, or I'm not quite sure the format that you'd like me to go into. So.
It's a very open format. So, if you want to explain your skill set, how you think it could apply.
Yeah, certainly so. So I do not have a professional background in water management, engineering, anything like that. My profession is I am actually working with, I work with academic medicine. I work with med schools and teaching hospitals all across the U.S. I work with a lot of different viewpoints and come together on consensus. So I think that I boiled down my interest into a couple of things and what I think what I'd focus on. So I think that there is the obvious priority of commitment to protecting wetlands, waterways, and the conservation land here in Long Meadow. I've been to quite a few town meetings and seen how passionate our folks in the town are, also online how passionate they are. I think that there needs to be a respect for law and process that's in place, but also precedent and operations that are in place. I think there needs to be respect for expertise from town employees as well. We also have great resources in the nearby area that we can leverage and respect from the number of higher ed institutions we have with specialties in this area. I think that I can bring fair and balanced judgment to this. I'm very good at dealing with lots of different interested parties and getting people together, and hopefully people walking away feeling that things were at least fair and that things were clear. Yeah, I think that goes into my ability to work pretty collaboratively across different committees with different community members, as well as you all. And then I think the willingness that I have to do this is my capacity has opened. My youngest has turned 4. And it is amazing having what feels like eons of time, even if it's just several more hours a week. I'm pretty organized with these things, and running committees, even though I wouldn't want to be running the committee. Running committees is what I do daily, and participating in something like this of an issue that's always been important to me since I was a young little guy that was kayaking, fly fishing, even though my fly fishing permit has lapsed. But I've worked in college. I worked in irrigation, getting through college. These issues, I've worked in construction in college. I'm well aware of some of the conversations that go on and the permitting that has to happen, the dialogue that has to happen, and the forward education that's pretty important that can stave off quite a bit.
Have you spoken with any members of the Conservation Commission?
I have not. I'm very new to this. And so when I saw on the website that there was a vacancy, that's why I decided that I didn't know if there was a lack of interest, and so it would be one that I could step in to fill. I asked Peggy, I think, I'm not sure. Hi, Peggy. Yeah, and I heard that there was another candidate, at least one other candidate, and I would like to say that I certainly respect people who have participated in the committee before, and if it is someone who has participated quite a bit with the committee, I would defer to that person as being the stronger candidate. I just thought that there was an absence of interest, so I wanted to step in to fill that void.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from the board? All right, thank you for your interest. We don't vote at this meeting. We will vote at our next meeting.
Okay, wonderful. Thanks
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you.
All right, next up, we have an interview for the DEI Advisory Committee. Matthew Delson. Hi, state your name and address.
Matthew Delson. I live at 97 Longfellow Drive.
Thank you. And what interests you about the DEI Committee?
So I've committed basically my entire professional career to social justice and helping others and changing things at a systemic level. I've worked in nonprofits and on political campaigns for many, many years. And as someone on the autism spectrum, growing up in Longmeadow, I would say my experience was overall very good, but they always say the greatest room in the world is the room for improvement. And I think there are some guidelines and policies that I could help introduce. Maybe nothing like law, but I know this committee works with schools, businesses, organizations like that, and I would love to be a part of those conversations about how to make this town and the businesses and the schools that are in it more accessible and inclusive to people like me. And there's also a lot of stereotypes about what autism looks like and how autistic people think and how they live their lives. But I also want to show that they say when you met one autistic person, you've met one autistic person. So I want to show also that we have a variety of strengths and support needs and professional skills, and that we really can't all fit into one mold, and that's why addressing it can be rather difficult. I mean, and I'm under no illusions that every single autistic person has, for lack of a better word, the strengths that I do. I mean, I work in nonprofits; it's a very social skills heavy field, so I don't meet a lot of people like me on my job. Or on other committees I've served, and there's also people with about a quarter of autistic people have what's called profound autism, where they have very high support needs, and they're going to have a much harder time advocating for themselves. And I'm not claiming to stand for them, not at all. Actually, I'm just one person, and so I want to bring my perspective along with many others, and really try to make this a more inclusive and just town.
Thank you. Have you spoken with anybody who's on the DEI Committee?
I have. I've spoken with I've spoken with every member. I was invited to their last meeting as a guest.
Okay. Well, that's great. They could always use fresh ideas, so appreciate your interest.
Yeah, of course.
Any other questions from the board? Okay. Thank you very much. We appreciate you coming out.
Thank you so much.
All right, and last up, for Historic District Commission, Gary, I heard you asking if you're in the right place. You are. Come on up.
My name is Gary Gay. I'm at 159 Maple Road. I was lucky enough to walk over here today in the unusually warm weather. I've been in town now for about 3 years. I've spent I grew up in Belchertown, Mass, being heavily involved in the community, in giving back, in being involved in kind of the structure and development of the town, school system, and sports and everything. And my background, my skill set, I'm a real estate agent, and I also work as a sales manager for a construction company. We deal with primarily residential construction, so I'm also not afraid to get my hands dirty. I do have very extensive background in growing up in an older community like Belchertown. I see a lot of similarities to the town and the older area and the historic district and the historic buildings. And that's something that I've always had a passion for. I'm the type of person who will try to repair it before replace it. And in my business and in my personal life, I try to always find different ways to reuse things and incorporate that history, especially structure, being in the real estate field. I love older homes, the character they bring, and I also understand what replicating some of that stuff today's day and age costs, and the practicality of it. So I am excited to be part of the town here and getting more involved in the community. I have 2 girls at Wolf Swamp School. One's in 4th grade, one's in preschool, and I just signed on there this year, and I'm the president of the PTO. So I have taken those steps to get more involved in the community, and I do see myself being here for a very long time. So I look to continue that growth.
Great, thank you. Any questions from the board? All right. Yeah,
Awesome.
thank you for, we normally get people who are in the historic district who, so it's nice to have somebody outside of it.
Yeah, I am possibly moving, not in the historic district, but over to like Green Acres. So hopefully I will be a little bit closer in proximity, but again, just having that like love and value for the architecture and the history behind it is really what I think is a unique skill set.
Great.
Yep.
All right, thank
Thank
you
you,
very
guys.
much. All right, and our last applicant did not RSVP, Peggy? Okay.
Three.
Okay, next up, we have guest speakers, the school department budget presentation.
Thank you. I think Peggy has the slide deck here for us. So I have more slides than I'll present to you tonight. I'll be mindful of your time. I know the select board has been tuned into the budget developments on the school side. So joined tonight by School Committee Chair Michaela Fitzgerald, Chair of the Finance Subcommittee Jamie Hench, and Tom Mazur, Assistant Superintendent for Finance and Operations. So I want to thank them for shepherding the LPS budget for FY27. The budget was recently approved by the school committee, and really appreciate the involvement of your town manager, Lynn, your finance director, Ian, and working with Tom and I very closely, going back several months to bring you a budget that I hope your takeaway at a high level is simply that this is a fiscally responsible budget, that it drives our fiscal priorities, our strategic priorities, and that there's, I believe, a significant return on the great investment that the residents of Long Meadow make in our schools. So hopefully it can accomplish those few things for you tonight. You can skip down to, I think it's the 3rd slide, Peggy. Yeah, that one's fine. So at the very highest level, a summary of the FY27 budget, you'll see that the general fund, that request that was voted by the school committee is $1,077,536 over FY26. We are projecting special revenue to increase modestly over FY26, although I will say that as recently as Friday, we received some news on some federal entitlement grants that we're still unpacking that could change that second row that you're seeing on the budget recommendation summary slide. In terms of percentages, you can go to the next slide, Peggy. One back, please. In terms of percentages, it's a 2.6% increase over FY '26 in terms of the general fund contribution, and the overall budget would increase by 2.47% over FY '26. Again, I think these are, we hope that the select board sees this as a manageable budget that was voted by the school committee. When I see some of the increases in neighboring communities, it makes me feel good that we're able to bring to you a budget that drives our priorities, but we hope is also manageable to the residents. Next slide, please. So again, a budget that drives our strategic priorities, that shows to the community that we take our responsibility to be good stewards of their tax dollars very seriously, and that we hope that we're able to demonstrate that we use those funds efficiently, that we always seek ways to operate more effectively, to work smarter rather than harder. So next slide, Peggy. Quick overview of some of our strategic priorities. I won't linger on this, but certainly align curriculum, design universally for all students, driving inclusive practice to ensure that we're meeting the individual needs of individual students. We're very interested in embedding our vision of the graduate, ensuring that we have opportunities for students to acquire those, I'm starting to call them AI-proof skills. They're heading into a world that is hard for all of us to understand, but we think that if we can embed those VOG skills, that they will be well prepared for whatever life brings them after Longmeadow. And then also creating safe and supportive school environments, ensuring that we create environments where kids feel that sense of belonging, that sense of safety, which is so important to learning. So next slide, please. Again, I won't linger here, and it wouldn't, small font, but just trying to convey the idea that we are always actively pursuing grants to supplement the great work that our educators do and that our administrators do, and that we are always looking for ways to operate more efficiently. One of the things that the school committee has charged us with is to ensure that we have a multi-year curriculum review cycle, so that we're plotting for potential curriculum expenditures in wise and thoughtful ways, and that we're able to budget for them accordingly. We have introduced some tools that help us manage data in ways that are more centralized and more efficient. We are always shifting staffing in response to changing enrollment patterns. You'll see later on that as enrollment has declined in recent years, just modestly, not in a dramatic way, but our staffing has declined in a corresponding way. So that's important to us, that we're always shifting staffing in response to changing enrollment patterns. A critical part of our success is that last bullet, is the development of in-district special education programming, so that students have an opportunity to be educated in Longmeadow in ways that are frankly more cost-effective. So next slide, please. And again, just highlighting some of the ways that we are trying to work smarter rather than harder, and trying to always seek operational efficiency, trying to use the technology tools that can help us work smart. We have moved to a fully online registration system. I see our friends from the DPW in the back. We're working closely with them to ensure that we're able to coordinate our work orders through the DPW's cloud-based work order system, so that we're trying to enhance communication using those tools. We have area partnerships with Bay Path University, Westfield State University. The Collaborative for Educational Services is an organization up in Northampton that provides some professional development. And then down the road, we think that the combined middle school will create some opportunities for us to be more cost-effective in the way that we allocate the tax dollars that we're blessed to have. Next slide, please. I want to kind of quickly hit at a high level on revenues and expenditures and the return on investment. I'm really proud that we are able to provide a great return on the investment that taxpayers make in Long Meadow Public Schools. So, next slide, Peggy. Thank you. This may be familiar, but I think it's worth revisiting when you think about the building blocks of a school budget. Chapter 78, you'll notice it's sort of a small slice. This is not built to scale, but it does reflect that Chapter 78 is overall only a modest part of the building blocks that make up our budget. There is a minimum local contribution, and that all communities are required to expend to support what's called a foundation budget. And then beyond that, most communities in Massachusetts spend beyond what is minimally required. And so we're fortunate that Long Meadow, again, like many communities, spends above what is minimally required. But I'll give you, on the next slide, we'll kind of put a little bit more information together to help you understand that. So in the green, you'll see the how much Long Meadow spends above what is minimally required. In the orange, you'll see how Chapter 70 has grown in recent years, and then the minimum amount that Long Meadow is required to spend in the yellow. I think that tells a story, and I think the story that the yellow bars tell is the increasing cost of doing business. And I know the select board's aware of that, given all the town departments that you're working to support, but schools are no different. The cost of doing business has certainly increased in recent years. Next slide, please. And so when we think about how much Long Meadow spends beyond what is minimally required, you'll see that across the state, the average is somewhere around 25%. Long Meadow spends around anywhere, in recent years, this is the most recent years that I could grab data for, going back to FY22, spending about 47.81% beyond what is minimally required. But you'll see that it has fallen off a little bit in recent years. I think it's a trend line that we should pay some attention to, just to kind of be mindful of, because I think that's where sort of excellence lies, frankly, is the ability, the effort that communities can make to spend beyond what is minimally required. Next slide, please. And so Chapter 78, we are anticipating, based on the governor's budget, a modest increase in the amount of Chapter 78 that the town receives. That $200,850 figure on the far right represents a 2.5% increase. It is the hold harmless amount. It represents $75 per student. So, you know, to the folks assembled here tonight, it might be something that we have some conversations with our legislators about, with the hope that that Chapter 70 number can increase. It really does not keep pace with growing costs, with contractual obligations. You may recall that last year we were projecting that $75 per student increase at this time. Eventually, as the budget season lingered on, the legislature increased that to, I think it was $125 per student. So that was some welcome relief that we received in the spring of '25. So I think we're all hoping that that Chapter 70 figure it would be a good windfall to the town if the legislature is able to increase Chapter 70 before the budget is finalized. Next slide, please, Peggy. And so you'll see how that translates from year to year. In fairness, the state has, you know, really stepped up with Chapter 78, but really it has gone, you know, largely been gobbled up by inflationary pressures. I mentioned that we are set to receive that $75 per student increase. We're in the same boat as over 200 other communities across the Commonwealth. So it's a modest increase, and we're hoping that the state can serve us better eventually. Next slide, please. Return on investment. This is sorted alphabetically, but I just wanted to share with you how Long Meadow stacks up to communities that the state has identified we are demographically, socioeconomically similar to. And so you'll see the amount of per pupil expenditures in Long Meadow relative to the other communities that are on the chart here. I guess I would make the case that while our per pupil costs are lower, and admittedly these are many communities from the eastern part of the state, but while our per pupil costs are lower than typical, I think our results are greater than typical. And so really proud of the results that we see relative to the investment that we make here in Long Meadow. And to see it locally, the next slide will show how Long Meadow stacks up to local communities. You can go to the next one, Peggy. So these are our Western Massachusetts neighbors, and you can see that again, our per pupil expenditures here in Long Meadow are modest compared to surrounding communities, but the performance results, I think, speak for themselves in terms of the number of students, the percentage of students that meet or exceed the grade 10 MCAS threshold. So again, really just hoping to convey that I believe the significant return on investment that we see here in Long Meadow. And in fairness, all of these communities have different needs and different realities and different costs. And so sometimes these per pupil expenditure comparisons are difficult because the needs and realities of Long Meadow are different than the needs and realities of every other community up there. Thank you, Peggy. You can go to the next slide. Just quickly, I'll just kind of glide through the next couple of slides. Our enrollment data, you can go to the next one, Peggy. This is historic enrollment. You can see that we've been trending down in the last 10 or 12 years. Not the decline that many communities in the area have seen, but an enrollment decline nonetheless. This does not include our pre-K population, by the way. So that's the historic enrollment. The next slide shows projected enrollment, and you can see that we're not anticipating any increases in enrollment. If anything, we're expecting that we'll continue to see a slight decline over the next decade or so. Again, really reflective of enrollment patterns in Western Mass, in the Northeast, and frankly across the country. There are fewer school-aged children nowadays than in the last several decades. So this is sort of typical for the most part, rather than alarming in any way. Next slide is our current enrollment. Again, this does not include students who are placed out of district, so we're at about 2,723 students. If you add in students who are placed out of district, we're beyond that number. Next slide, please, Peggy. Again, not to linger, but you can kind of take a glance and see that this is at the K-5 level. You'll see that this budget that the school committee has voted allows us to maintain the really reasonable, manageable class sizes that make a difference. So I'm really proud of that. I'm proud, this is where Long Meadow has historically invested its school dollars, is in class size, particularly at the elementary level. So we're seeing some encouraging numbers there, projecting some encouraging numbers there for next year. Okay, next slide, thank you. You can go one more, Peggy, thank you. And so again, just wanted to circle back, the high-level summary. Next slide, please. The percentage increase, next slide, thank you. You can go one back. To give you some idea of how the projected increase stacks up to increases that we have seen in recent years. So again, I think this is a credit to Mr. Tom Mazza and the school committee behind me for really kind of being good stewards of the budget, creating a manageable fiscal situation for this community. So that 2.6% increase seems to fall in line with where we've been historically on average, at least. Next slide, please. To look at some of the same information, but in real dollar terms, the general fund increase that we're projecting, that $1,077,536. In the upper left, you can see how that stacks up against increases in prior years. And then the total budget increase when all funds are considered. So when you include grant funds or entitlement grants, that would result in the total budget numbers that you're seeing on the right. Next slide, please. To give you some idea of the funding sources for the FY27 budget, you can see that we are very much reliant on the general fund. That's a higher than typical number. When you look across the state, you'll see that other communities are more reliant on federal grants, regular and special education grants, but we are very much reliant on the contributions of the general fund. We're very much reliant on local revenue. You have the next slide, please. This is something that shows the pluses and minuses associated with the FY27 budget. I'd call your attention on the right side to the contractual obligations that we are obliged to meet. We are projecting about $1.3 million in contractual obligations. One of the factors that really helped us put together a manageable budget is the attrition numbers on the right. So when we factor in retirements and factor in the teachers that will replace them, lower on the salary schedule, we were looking at savings close to $500,000. Without that, that really broke in our favor, frankly. Without that, I think we might be having a very different conversation. So a crop of retirees being replaced by folks who will generally come in lower on the salary schedule was a significant benefit to us. The other number I'd call your attention to is the utilities number. You'll see that we are projecting an increase of about $348,725 in utilities. Everyone knows the cost of heating, cooling, providing utilities to your home is increasing significantly, the cost of providing electricity. And so that's, I think, one of the biggest, if not the biggest increase that any of us remember in terms of the utility costs that we are projecting. Some other adjustments, you'll see that, again, some savings on the left side associated with out-of-district tuitions. The reason some of the items here are in blue is because when the town's health insurance numbers came back after the first iteration of the budget, we went back to the drawing board and had to make some additional adjustments. So what you see in blue are the adjustments that we had to make due to the health insurance numbers that came back to us. So we have an elementary academic coach position that is currently vacant that we will not rehire based on the budget that has been voted by the school committee. You'll see that we had planned, the school committee had planned an increase in athletic program funding. We have an athletic program that is very much reliant on the generosity of booster clubs and user fees. We've been trying to close the gap in recent years to sort of gradually increase the effort that we're making so that we We want to get to a place where we're less reliant on user fees and booster contributions. That really won't be the case for us in FY '27. It was a modest increase, but it was something that we felt we should pull back on. And the other items on the list, the personnel, the other personnel adjustments, I just want to be clear to anybody watching it, this will not affect direct service. Most of the adjustments here relate to changing enrollment patterns, changing student needs. We think that we'll still be able to be responsive to students with direct service with the budget that's been voted by the school committee. Next slide, Peggy. Breaking down our cost centers, you'll see that we're in the people business. Close to 80% of our costs are tied to salaries. Special education services and is another area, another cost center for us. Transportation, that wedge is frankly bigger in many other communities. We're thankful that we have a walkable, bikeable, pedestrian-friendly community, and so our transportation costs really don't gobble up as much of the pie chart as you might see in some other communities. And next slide, please. You'll see, just to dive a little deeper into our potential electric and natural gas costs, you'll see that the anticipated increase for FY '27, so that those costs continue to grow for us. Next slide, please. That's a revisit. We can go to the next slide. Showing the sort of, again, responsiveness to changing enrollment patterns. We are anticipating that the total number of full-time equivalents, FTEs, the total number of FTEs is projected to decline. Actually, the bottom 0.00 should be a negative 1.0. So we are anticipating another gradual decrease in the number of full-time equivalents for the 26-27 school year. Again, related to enrollment, probably with the exception of that academic coaching position that we mentioned earlier. Next slide, Peggy. You can go to the next slide. And one more. All right. And finally, some of the items that the school committee and the administrative team are continuing to keep their eyes on. On the left are some of the variables that we're still tracking that could still move one way or another. We are have not finalized all of our collective bargaining agreements for FY '27. We always have to be responsive to enrollment patterns. Things can happen over the summer that could create costs or create savings. So with students moving in and students moving out, we'll continue to track final state aid levels. The school committee still needs to vote on fee-based services for busing, preschool, and athletics. And on the right is sort of I think we're not doing our job if we're not conveying to the select board and to the community those areas where we think we would benefit from additional investment if we were in that position. We want to continue to explore how we can support finance the continuum of supports, fully funding athletics, career and professional development for paraprofessionals. It's increasingly important that we support the pipeline to ensure that we can continue to have qualified educators. The pipeline is more narrow than it has been in recent years, and so we want to continue to find ways to support staff and develop them professionally. Fully funding curriculum renewal, curriculum supplies, instructional coaching is another area that we feel like is a target for investment, onboarding new staff, and then finally, substitute teaching. I would say, there are many communities around us who are need to pay their substitute teachers more. We're on the lower end, but again, finding substitute teachers has been difficult in recent years as well. So those are just some of the things that we'll continue to track and pay attention to. And again, thankful to Lynn and Ian, Tom Maz, and the school committee for helping us put together a budget that I hope, really continues to drive our priorities and demonstrates how important it is to us to be good stewards of folks' tax dollars. So happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Well, thank you to
Yeah.
you and to the school committee and Tom and everyone else involved. Long Meadows are schools, and if we didn't have our schools, it'd be very difficult to get people to move here. And so we're grateful that we're in a position where we have the money to spend. And that being said, it's no surprise to any of you folks that this gets harder every year. And so we really appreciate you coming in at 2.6. We can only go up 2.5 overall, and to come in at a reasonable amount above that puts a lot less pressure on the rest of the town. And state funding, it's unfortunate where it came in this year, and the town overall is in a similar position with the state funding just not being what we hoped it would be and what it could be, but everyone's feeling the squeeze.
Yeah.
One of the things that jumped out to me, and I'm glad you did the class size presentation, is that where, if things continue to pinch, as I think there will be some pressure on that, is that something you'd have to look at? Is that a first place we look, or are there other places you think?
I'd say it's one of the last places we look. I mean, we would try to, if we had to, we would try to keep any potential reductions away from direct service, particularly at the elementary level. I think, as you move up in grades, you might have more tolerance for larger class size, but I think it's been part of our DNA to really keep manageable class sizes because it's the most important factor in a child's education is the teacher that is in front of them. And so creating those manageable class sizes has always been important for us. So I'd say it would be one of the last places that we would go. But, we certainly recognize that the dust hasn't completely settled on the town's budget, and, we'll continue to stay in touch with Lynn and Ian to understand the fiscal position of the town. We know that you don't have a voted budget yet, and ultimately this comes down to some decisions at the state level and at town meeting, so.
And I said a couple of questions, we talk about this a bit on the middle school building committee, but I know that there'll be some cost savings where we can consolidate some services, and hopefully we'll, in the long run, have some electricity savings or utility savings overall with the geothermal and the solar. But one of the things you mentioned is that we don't have to spend much on transportation. Will that change with a greater proportion of our middle schoolers being bused?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think some of the operational savings and the service savings that you mentioned, I think some of that will be offset by increased busing costs. So we don't know exactly how much that will increase when we open the new middle school in the 28-29 school year, but right now we're thinking probably like one additional bus might be needed. But again, that really depends on what our bus fees are and what our bus policies are, and there's a lot of variables that could influence that. Really depends on, I suppose, partly we want it to be a good experience for families who are picking up and dropping off in the normal car line, as we've talked about many, many times. But I think that's another variable that will influence that transportation piece. Yeah.
And just, I guess with our water rates and looking at the budget, I've been thinking of the future a lot and ramifications down the road. If we have to come in 2.5 or lower again next year and beyond that, just so we're aware and people who are watching are aware, can you give specific examples of what you think where the cuts would be if we have to make changes, if it's not student-facing?
Yeah, I mean, I ultimately bring those recommendations back to the school committee, sort of sit down as an administrative team and then develop a set of recommendations. But I think it really comes down to keeping it away from direct service. So you would first look at positions that aren't providing that direct service, clerical service, custodial service, admin service. You know, those are the places. If you're looking at FTEs, you probably would want to pull back on some of your curriculum costs, perhaps. You might want to look at user fees. I think everything would have to be on the table to help us deal with any budget challenges down the road. I know that, I think, you know, Tom Mazza reminds our administrative team all the time that FY '28 could be much more difficult. I think a couple of things broke in our favor, including the retirement number that we talked about. But I know that health insurance costs continue to rise, and that's a reality for town and school that we have to respond to. So tough to say exactly where you might look, but I think everything winds up on the table.
I think user fees were what I was wondering about, really, because I know that
Yeah.
sometimes you have to find alternative ways to raise funds, and
Yeah.
that's hard enough for a town to do, but very hard for a school to do.
Right. And it's, you know, the benefit to the school in raising user fees versus the impact to households, you know, so we may not get much bang for the buck by increasing user fees. It would be a pretty modest supplement to the budget, but you'd have to think about what it meant for households and for residents, I suppose. But I'm sure the way you think about that with all the fees that you have to manage.
Mhm. Any questions, comments from the rest of the board?
I just had
Shelley?
a quick question, just to echo what Josh said. I thank you for your job, the school committee, Tom, Ian, Lynn. You made it sound easy to walk through this deck, but I'm sure it was not easy to get to this point. Just hearing all the numbers and where you landed, do you, the school committee, do you have any concerns as you head into 2026? Is there any watch points that, with this particular budget, that maybe gave you all pause to say, hey, this is what we're concerned with for 2027?
Yeah, I think, you know, we were disappointed that this budget won't help us carry over that academic instructional coach. These are individuals who support our teachers, who provide some training and professional development. They lay out units of study. They help us coordinate and align curriculum. They don't provide direct service, but they you know, academic coaches have significant value. And so that's one concern, I'd say. I continue to be concerned about athletics, and it's important to this community. And I would hope that, you know, down the road, we're in a position to increase our investment in that area. But, you know, we have to think about our core mission first, I suppose, you know, which is classroom instruction. That's the core that we would want to protect if we were in a difficult budget position.
Thank you. Just one quick follow-up question from that, and just because I'm not in this field with the academic coaching support, and you may have already looked at this, do other towns, are they struggling with that same type of support function? And do towns ever share support and bring the coaching together, or does the coaching actually happen like in the school, in the classroom?
I think
type of
it's
thing?
so intimate. It
Okay.
happens at such a direct one-to-one level between the academic coaches and the classroom teachers. And so they're, and every community has sort of, you know, we all follow the state standards, but unique curriculum, unique materials, unique pacing. So that, it feels like that would be difficult. As it is, our academic coaches, the few that we have, feel stretched across the schools that
Okay.
they serve. So, but I would say that communities that are in difficult budget place, that's one of the areas they look.
Okay.
You know, but, I mean, the truth is that the needs of students have grown. I think, again, it's a well-known story. And over the last decade or so, the social emotional needs, the behavioral needs of students have grown. And I think the expectations have grown. I'll say, as I have often said, we expect more of our educators than ever before. And that's probably true of a lot of town personnel, you know, and that's okay. That's what can drive excellence, but I think it's just something to be mindful of. You know, creating that continuum of supports is really, really critical. And we've been able to make investments in social emotional supports and behavioral supports, and I'd hate to see us have to pull back on that or retreat on that if we had some challenging budgets, because at the end of the day, kids need to be safe, feel comfortable, be well adjusted in order to learn, so.
Dr. O'Shea, is there any question? I just want to say one thing, just to kind of
Absolutely.
set the stage, something, just because he asked a question. So thank you for letting me come up quick. Just two quick comments on kind of what you were saying is kind of looking out into the future. Number one, the only thing that concerns me about this particular budget, because everything did break in our favor, it was like that game where the kid made every single three he ever threw up, was this budget. This was fairly easy, not too painful. There were some pretty decent adjustments that we think we should make, but we're kind of backing off those for the benefit of the town. The one thing that does make me nervous is we're budgeting down from the actual energy. Tom, or Mr. Mazza and Dr. O'Shea said they were comfortable with it, but we are
saw
budgeting
that.
down.
Yeah.
I mean, so hopefully we don't have a bad winter. Who knows what's gonna come our way? But to answer your question is, you know, kind of looking forward, does 2.5 look decent? Everything is not breaking in our way for the next 2 years. So if you had to say that perfect game where everything was working out, we have a lot of things where we're probably already, that are working against us a little bit. That doesn't mean that they're not gonna be hurdles we'll get over, but I can tell you from a contractual obligations, hitting 2.5, that's a hurdle. So the next, not this year, the following years based off of what's already laid out. So to get to those numbers in 2028, it's a decent hurdle. That following year's hurdle, 2.5,
Yeah.
it's going to be a rough one to get over. I don't think we'll be anywhere near that and keep a level service. I mean, so that's the truth of where we are right now. Could you get a bunch of attrition that we don't know is coming our way, and we pick up $500,000 each year? Possibly, but that's being hopeful. That's not being kind of realistic, because we've had a lot of attrition, a lot of our turnover, which is good and it's bad. It's great when you look at your budget. It's bad whenever you leave the most seasoned people that have a wealth of knowledge that are leaving our workforce. So those next few years, 2.5, truthfully, is going to be difficult with keeping everything the same. Is kind of where we're currently at, but we hope maybe the energy will break our way and different other things, but we don't really know. So
I think that the collective bargaining piece, you know, the remaining competitive, making sure we're attracting and retaining the best people. You know, we had, I think that's going to be a factor for us in the years ahead too.
very much.
We met with all you, we know how hard you work on doing that,
Yeah.
but you have to pay to get the best.
Right.
Yes.
There's no way around that.
Yeah.
When you're employing as many people as you do, when you raise salaries a little bit, it really has ramifications, so.
Yeah, right.
We appreciate the hard work you're doing on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Anything else? Dan?
Thanks for the presentation, well done. Just a couple of questions. So with all the chaos going on at the federal level and Secretary of Education, are we finding or seeing any impacts that are trickling down to Long Meadow specifically? I assume we're watching this on a regular basis.
Yeah.
It seems like every day there's some new threat towards public education,
Yeah.
and just curious on your thoughts.
Yeah, I think, so, special education, the funds that we receive under IDEA are a component, and then funds that we receive under Title I. So Title I funds, it's another entitlement grant meant to support students from low-income or high-need situations. We're hearing that the Title I funding that Long Meadow can anticipate will be below what we're projecting. So I do feel like, you know, and whether that's a function of our demographics or it's a function of some shifting priorities at the federal level, I'm not quite sure yet, but we are anticipating that we're going to see less revenue associated for Title I programming. And then aside from that, I think maybe I'm being a little overly optimistic, but I think the federal commitment, you know, on both sides, on all sides of the political spectrum to providing special education supports is long established. And I can't imagine a world where the federal government started to pull back on IDEA. One of the things that concerns me as someone who's committed to public education and believes in public education is the federal government perhaps channeling money towards charter schools or private schools. You know, there hasn't been any concrete developments in that area, but that is something that I think I would want to be mindful of, you know, in terms of shifting federal priorities and what that might mean for us here locally.
Thank you. And
Yeah.
the other question, I know we talked a little bit about AI and just kind of the impact. It's the age of AI, and I'm just curious how Longmeadow Public Schools is addressing AI with our students, our teachers. I'm sure you have policies in place, but tonight we're talking about the budget and
Yeah.
how are we leveraging AI, whether it's cost savings without impacting our students and our teachers.
Yeah. So I think we're seeing the tools being introduced on the operational side in terms of how we, you know, manage and administer the schools. I think on the instructional side, I think we are sprinting to stand still. You know, kind of keeping up with AI developments is really, really challenging. I think it is shifting our approach to instruction just to, you know, kind of have to assume that kids have access to all the knowledge, you know, that they could possibly want at their fingertips. So you have to think about, you know, how do they apply it? And have to think about, you know, developing those AI-proof skills, collaboration, communication, reasoning, critical thinking, creativity, like all those things that you'll need regardless of, you know, what career you find yourself in. So I do think it is shifting our approach to instruction, particularly at the older grades. But you know, as I'm sure the town is finding, kind of keeping up with developments in the world of AI is really, really challenging.
And one last quick question, if I could, because we always bring this up, and it's athletics, something I'm very passionate about. And I just want to get an understanding of the $15,000 that we're talking about. What would that impact be for athletics?
I'd say we will probably have to make that up with like sort of game management and maybe finding some efficiencies in transportation. So, you know, could it create some more inconvenience for transportation? Could it have us think differently about site management, game management? Yes. So I think, you know, for a few years now, the school committee has been making it a priority to kind of increase our effort in that area. So it's, you know, disappointing that we have to pull back because I've long believed you get a ton of bang for your buck with athletics. It's in terms of the amount of kids that are occupied every single day after school for hours and hours and hours versus the, you know, the costs of running the program. I think the return on investment is significant. Yeah. I mean, our coaches, they're not enriching themselves with the stipends that we're able to provide them. If you broke it down on an hourly basis, I think it would be eye-opening.
Well, we know the feeling.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Marty, Tom, school committee. I thought this was a great presentation. It was very clearly laid out and excellent job. And I just had two comments to make. I think, so some of us attended the Massachusetts Municipal Association Conference this year. And that conference, some of the themes in that conference, as well as what we're seeing right now with all the towns and everyone trying to get their budgets together, is the impact of inflation and the impact of utility costs. And I think it's really important to note that this is also impacting school budgets and something that schools are also having to contend with. And so I just wanted to highlight that there are far-reaching impacts to these pressures. And then the second thing I just wanted to mention was looking at that column of potential strategic investments. I just wanted to commend you all because I think so many of the things listed there, especially the instructional coaching, academic coaching, as well as the curriculum renewal, those are just in alignment with so much of what we're seeing with best practices and what we're seeing across the country of what's working. I mean, I think there's so many articles and stories right now about places like Mississippi and Louisiana that have seen major turnarounds in their educational systems, and so many of those jumps in their educational improvements are credited towards using academic coaching and towards the approach that they've taken to looking at their curriculum and renewing it and everything. So I'm glad to see that you all are also thinking about that's front of mind for you all as well.
Yeah, I mean, good, high-quality instructional materials, high-quality curriculum, research-based is expensive, for sure.
Yeah, and then I think a couple years ago when we did the curriculum change for the literacy program, that was really important, and and I think we've seen the benefits of that.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right.
All right. Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much. We appreciate you all coming in. All right, we have no applications. Do we have anybody on correspondence? I did stop in and talk to Rachel at Latest Craze about her dessert trailer, and she told me that Beneath comes in all the time, so I thought I'd just.
Well, what do you have, young kids?
That's weird, he doesn't bring anything for us.
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, and moving on to the town manager's report, Lynn?
Thanks. So tonight I have some updates on the MSBA Accelerated Repair Center School projects, both for windows and the roof. Both projects are progressing. The MSBA voted to approve the proposed roof replacement project with a maximum total facilities grant of $3,762,665. We have 90 days to commit to the funding. This is included on the draft annual town meeting warrant. And as I had already reported, in October of 2025, the MSBA Board of Directors voted to invite the town into the Accelerated Repair Program for schematic design study for the window and door replacement project at Center School. A kickoff meeting has been scheduled for March 17th, and that will start the design work for the windows and the doors. This will hopefully wrap up and allow us to have a funding article on the fall special town meeting warrant. We do have a very tight timeline here, but in a lot of construction that would take place at one school, but we're hoping to move these both along at the same time so that we could complete construction at the same time. So it's less of a disruption for less of a period of time. An update on the middle school building project. Site and design review and special permit applications were received by the Planning Board and Zoning Board of Appeals on March 2nd. And the Zoning Board of Appeals is going to hold a public hearing on Tuesday, March 24th at 7 p.m. This meeting's virtual. And the Planning Board will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, March 31st at 6 p.m. for the site and design review application. Both of those meetings are open to the public, and the Planning Board's meeting is a hybrid meeting, meaning it's virtual and in person for people who would like to attend. An update on Bliss Park Playground. After receiving bids, a contract was signed with Charlie Arment Trucking Incorporated as the low bidder for the installation of the new playground equipment at Bliss Park, totaling $149,000. Again, this was just a reminder that this was a land and water conservation grant. The substantial completion for this project is June 12th. We do have a lot of work to do leading up to installation. We have demolition and some groundwork that needs to happen, and that is going to get ready to go as soon as the weather clears. Update on the Longmeadow Converse Street L project. Murray's Contractors Incorporated has been contracted by MassDOT. They've started preliminary work of staking and pole installations as part of the project. Construction is expected to begin early April of '26. As a reminder, the project consists of intersection improvements at the intersections of Converse and Laurel, Converse and Long Meadow and Forest Glen / Western Drive. Improvements include new and improved turning lanes, traffic signal reconstruction. Work will also consist of new signage, pavement markings, and bicycle accommodations. Due to the proximity to I-91, we're expecting heavy commuter traffic demand, especially during the weekday peak hours. This project has been several years in design and planning stages and has a significant component of roadway and traffic control improvements along this heavy traveled corridor. We have done some preliminary meetings already, and we're working on the traffic control plan as well. So as soon as we have all of that, we will widely publicize it. We're also working on some enhanced engagement efforts just to talk about all of the road and construction projects that are going to start as soon as we really hit spring weather. An update on the ADU, accessory dwelling unit design guidelines and standards. The contract was awarded in the amount of $41,850 with Architecture Environment Life, Inc. for design services related to ADUs. This project is funded through a planning assistance grant awarded by the Massachusetts Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs. AEL will perform tasks including project group convening, design and analysis, visualization, and community outreach. The information that AEL gathers in these phases will be used to create a set of design guidelines and standards for ADUs that are tailored to the needs of our town in compliance with the newly adopted ADU bylaw. And my last update is regarding the Rev 250 work. A web page on the town website was created to provide information on all of the various programming being offered to mark our nation's 250th anniversary. You can find that on longmeadowma.gov/164/Rev250. Happy to answer any questions you have.
Yeah, I had a couple, Lynn. On the first one, is there a savings if both of the projects are done at the same time?
Remains to be seen. Not sure yet.
Logistically it would be much better.
Yes.
Okay. And then on the ADU, how are the design guidelines implemented? What does that mean exactly?
Design guidelines would be adopted by the planning board. We have some in our zoning bylaws now, so they would, if it goes that route, it would need a zoning bylaw update at town meeting. But there is some back and forth about whether or not they actually need a bylaw update with the law that they're allowed by right.
Right,
So-
that's what I'm wondering
Right,
about.
so
how
there
do
we'll have more information as we progress, depends on what they're looking to try to do. But town council's also been heavily involved.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, any other questions from the rest of the board?
Just
Go ahead, Dan.
one quick question. So, it's not really related to L project, but you mentioned just the roads. So, can you remind us when we're gonna receive the list of roads for paving? That was something that someone had asked me about.
Sure, so, a couple things. You are going to be getting an update on your pavement management plan, the town's pavement management plan. We've just been waiting to get that scheduled when you have a little bit more breathing room in your meetings. So we wanted to get past the budget and then bring you that report back. I know Beta has that completed and is just waiting to get it scheduled. There are no real road resurfacing projects planned for 27 like we had in 26. You're going to be getting the capital plan presented by me at the next meeting along with the budget. That's traditionally where you would see road resurfacing projects, but we do not have like a full, road resurfacing plan for 27. There's not enough funding and not enough resources to move that forward. But I will say you did tackle quite a bit. Your work with the DPW to fund that large bond tackled quite a bit. So we've made a lot of headway. And some of the other road projects that are happening also are road resurfacing work. They're just not traditionally what I think you're thinking of like we did last year.
Yeah, and I would say that I've personally received a lot of positive feedback just on what we were able to accomplish with the roads, and I was just curious because I know this is obviously the time where there's a lot of potholes, we get it, but there are definitely some stretches that hopefully we're able to address, whether it's like a skim coat or something, some just troubled areas, but we're gonna have that conversation at another time anyways.
Yep, next meeting, the 23rd, we'll talk about some of that. But I will just, as much as I'm saying we don't have stuff planned for 27, that's new stuff. You don't have a new menu of roads that we're gonna tackle. But we do have significant amount of road work that's about to happen.
Thank you.
Just to piggyback on Dan's pothole comment, my mom did blow a tire coming through town the other day, so I heard about it, so we get on that. No. Yeah.
That was a guess, but yes.
All right, anybody else? No? Okay, great. Anybody else want to bring up potholes? No? Okay. All right, we have on to old business, we have March 2nd, 2026 meeting minutes. Thank you for pulling that around, putting that together so quickly.
I'll move to approve the March 2nd, 2026 Select Board meeting minutes per any edits sent to Peggy.
Second.
Anything further? All those in favor? Unanimous, great. And then moving on to the water and sewer rate discussion. Before we move on, Clay asked a good question, and I figure in case he wants to leave, and Sean, I know you talked to him outside. Has there been any exploration of the federal grants?
Yeah, so we applied for federal grants pretty much every road we can. We haven't gotten any SRF funding. We did apply for the Western Drive project. I don't think it came through, but we have gotten a series of grant applications that have been successful, including the 2 TIP projects, the playground project that we mentioned. So a variety of grants we have got. We're very aggressive with them, and just to sort of clarify the grant process, a lot of times the engineering we pay for, there's always the caveat that you're doing this engineering for us, but you're going to get us any grant you can for it. So although we don't have a full-time grant writer, the engineering firms are looking for grants actively, and firms are looking to get into work with us, and they come with usually a printout that says this grant's here, we're going to write it for you, with obviously the agreement that it'd be nice if you hired us to do the design and construction. So we're really aggressive, and we've been very successful in getting grants.
Okay, I thought that was a good question. I know that we hear about grants from you all the time,
Yeah.
and we know we do make ready work to be ready for grants, so it's good to.
It's
to
the
get that
best.
out there.
It's the best question. I actually texted Lynn and I said that's the question I would be asking if I was a taxpayer. Maybe, what are you doing for grants?
Good.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Before I start, Peggy, I sent you a short.
I have the most recent one.
Perfect. Okay.
Okay.
So I'll have you move around slides as we go, but members of the board, good evening. Today I have a hopefully shortened presentation for you to go over some updated water rates. As we discussed at our last meeting, I'm bringing you 3 options today. One of them in particular I'll highlight at the beginning to say that this is not something that I would recommend to the board. I simply show it to the board so that they can understand that there is an option that I would call delay and defer. This is not something that I would say is fiscally responsible nor prudent, but I want to show the board that this is something that is an option and is something that we need to at least acknowledge as both for the residents and as the town. So going into the presentation, I have 3 options for you today, and we'll start off quickly with what the context of the situation is. So if you go to the next slide, Peggy. So really when we think about water sewer, we think about what are the considerations, what are the pain points that the town looks at when it comes to setting its rates. So 4 main things: compounding costs, public safety risks, operational instability, and lost grant opportunities. Sean was just talking about how engineering firms are really looking for projects and really looking out for grants for communities like ours. Eliminating engineering funds, this is a big part of the operating budget as well as sometimes capital asks. In 2 of the options today, I'll be showing you what would half fund engineering asks and full fund engineering asks and what that would mean. When we eliminate engineering funds from our budgets, we eliminate the ability to seek state grants like MassWorks that offset the costs that we give to our taxpayers. Going further than that, grants impact also operationally things like water valves, and you all love to hear alerts when our water valves break. These are the kinds of things that cause larger service issues, and having service outages is not fun for the residents, it's not fun for the town. Going further on that, when these water valves break, this can cause fire hydrants to become unusable, and there's a term for that called bagged. This compromises the fire department's ability to protect the community when fires break out, either during dry season or in accidents. Further, this compounds all to deferring routine costs. As we all know, the town is a series of routes, buildings, roads, and infrastructure. The longer we delay on doing these routine things can compound into $1 million emergency repairs. That comes with replacing large sections of pipes, that comes with replacing large sections of sewer systems and stormwater drains. It is not something that the board has shown that it wants to risk. This is why I bring these options for you today. So going right into it on the next slide, you'll see the two options that I will call option 2 and option 3. Option 2 is what I will call the half fund option, and option 3 is what I would call the fully funded option. Some assumptions on this. This assumes funding $125,000 towards the water retained earnings, as this is for the water budget first. This also assumes half funding all of the operational requests provided by Sean and Lisa. So this is money that's going towards water valve replacement, this is money that's going towards engineering. This is also fully funding our request for Springfield Water Sewer, as this is an obligation that we're required to do. This 4% increase to the variable rate and a 5% increase to the fixed rate, this would generate $5.6 million in revenue for the enterprise fund, which comes from $526,000 of fixed rate revenue and about $5 million of variable rate revenue. The reason that I chose to do a higher fixed rate than a higher variable rate is, as the board has discussed in the past, fixed rates are guaranteed revenue and are not impacted by variability in usage, as it is understood that residents from time to time might use more or less, and as rates and as well as costs become higher, residents might choose to irrigate less. This is something that the board has expressed concern about, and is something that the town is monitoring when it looks at setting its rates.
Do you want to interject?
I think I know what you're gonna ask. The presentation linked on the website is the full
Different.
version. What's up on the screen is a shortened, condensed version, so if you're looking at the one linked on the agenda, you're gonna be wanting to look at slide 13.
So I was going to ask that because the slide we're looking at, you said 4%. I didn't see that anywhere.
Yeah, thanks.
So 13 is where we should go?
Yeah. No,
No,
Peggy,
no.
leave,
Stay,
yeah.
stay.
Thanks, Lynn, sorry, I did not mention that. So, just so the board is aware, the original slides that I sent to you, this is a shorter version, just to highlight what I'll call the main points. So it's looking at the rates themselves, a discussion on on the community comparison, a discussion on Springfield Water Sewer Commission, and then looking at the cost comparisons for residents. Those are the main things I wanted to get to you today.
Can I ask one more question before you proceed?
Sure.
When you were saying does option 2 and option 3 meet those goals of 125K to the retained earnings? I wasn't sure if you meant only option 3 does that.
Sure. So in the breakout, I tried to show on the second to last line, there's a line for retained earnings. Option 2 is what I would call the half funding, where last year the board chose to do $250,000 towards retained earnings. That would be captured fully in option 3. No, that's actually helpful if you want to zoom that back in. It's a little small text, I realize. So option 2 is the half funding where we would only be putting 125,000 towards retained earnings. So
Option 3 put the 250.
option 3 puts the 250, yeah. And what
Okay.
you see at the bottom, that cushion, we
Yeah,
know
it's
that.
just the graph on the right side, the
Yes.
third line up is retained earnings.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah.
Andrew, you
I have it now, yeah.
Okay. The last line on the graph to the right shows a cushion where we are looking at what rates are and trying to get as close to possible as even, with building in some buffer as we know that there's variability in usage and making sure that we are not overburdening the residents with rates. So look, that's our two main takeaways for the water budget impact is we're looking at two different rate options. One that I will call the full option that looks at funding all of the requests made by the DPW for the year, and one that is half funding the option. Going now to the next slide, this would be the sewer proposals.
Sorry, before you move on, can I just clarify something? So option 1 only funds the increase from Springfield Water and Sewer.
Okay.
And I just want to clarify that, in that I misunderstood from our last meeting that it was a 6% increase. I had a conversation with Josh earlier that day, this was March 2nd, and mistakenly relayed to Josh that it was a 6% increase. That it was not accurate. It's an 18% increase in Springfield Water and Sewer. The 6% is a 3-year flow factor that Springfield uses when assessing us. That's where the 6
Okay.
number came from.
Thanks, Lynn.
Apologies.
Yeah, that's helpful to know. All right, the next slide looks at our sewer proposals. So same thing, looking at option 1, this only funds our Springfield Water Sewer Commission request. It does not fund any
Slide
other.
19.
Thank you.
Next one?
Yeah, no,
You
you,
stay, you stay.
No, 19 is this.
This only funds our Springfield Water Sewer ask and does not fund any other operational expenses. Option 2 and 3 are our half and full asks, where they fund partial operational requests and 125,000 of retained earnings for sewer, and option 3 funds the full 250,000 for sewer. Looking at the right side of the graph, you see how that works out in terms of revenue generated for the enterprise fund, with option 1 generating 3 million of revenue, option 2 generating 3.3 million of revenue, and option 3 generating 3.5 million of revenue, with fixed rates and variable rates shown above. In terms of the overall budget, as you can see, option 1 is the least, with very little funded within the budget, with 2.8 million of the overall budget, 3.1 million for option 2, and 3.45 million for option 3, resulting in a little bit over $100,000 of cushion for the fiscal year if the rates were held as is. For option 2, this rate would be a 25% increase in the fixed rate with a 20% decrease in the FY27 variable rate, which, and then option 3 would be a 12% decrease in the variable rate and a 25% increase in the fixed rate. If we move on to the next slides.
Just hold on for this one for
Sure.
a second.
Go back.
So, I called Ian today in a panic saying, this is so many slides, can you please help me understand? And he did. So can you explain why for anybody watching, why the base rate would go down in this instance?
Yeah, so if you're looking at the 3 different options, it looks different because if you're looking at option 1 to option 2 to option 3, it looks like it's going up. And that would be confusing to someone that doesn't realize what the rate increases are. So this is comparing the FY26 sewer rate to the FY27 proposed rates. So the prior year rate for sewer, for its variable rate, was $5.17. So a 25% decrease in the rate would bring it to $3.88, 20% would bring it to $4.14, and a 12% would bring it to $4.55.
You actually answered a different question that I had. Why are the rates going down at all?
Oh, sure. One, because we have funded our retained earnings and our rate increase from the prior year enough that we had enough revenue generated that we did not need a larger increase that we did previously. One of the big things that the board talked about in FY26 was that, for setting fiscal FY26 budget, was that we needed a large increase to the point that we had enormous fixed rate increases in the prior year. That resulted in our FY27 budget being reflected against that higher revenue, which means that we needed less revenue generated in 27. One of the things that you might ask is, well, Ian, you showed me a larger increase in the first round of proposals, and I would say you're correct. One of the reasons for that is when Lisa and I were going back, we noticed that there was a formula error in our model, and that resulted in some revenues not being captured in what we totaled as our revenue generated. This resulted in more revenues than we expected, which resulted in needing to ask for a lower increase than originally proposed.
And have we double-checked the model since then?
Yes, we have.
Slide?
Yeah, go ahead.
Andrew?
Well, that's okay. I can wait.
All right, so looking at the next 2 to 3 slides kind of looks at our retail water charge comparison from Long Meadow to our surrounding communities. So the important thing to note is you'll see that there are some communities that have a star next to them. Those are communities that have tiered rates. I'd like to note also for the board that this does not include fixed rates, as we just talked about in our rate proposals. Unfortunately, I did not bring that into the presentation today. I thought it was important to mention that that is something that we can include in the future, but I thought it was important to at least acknowledge that we are competitive when it comes to the variable rate with other communities on a per cubic foot basis. This is for retail water. Going to the next slide, we look at our sewer community charge comparison, and the same thing here. There are a couple communities that have tiered rates. Within the presentation, you'll see that the tiered rates I showed in the graph represent the highest possible option for those communities. For example, Northampton has a tiered rate of $7.86. For Boston, they have 6 different tiers, ranging from $6.62 per 100 cubic feet up to $12.51 per 100 cubic feet. So in order to make it more comparative, I showed the largest rate increases so that you would see the comparative differences. Ultimately, on the next slide, I show how those two combine into our total combined rate for the communities. And you can see on this that when projected against our surrounding communities on a per cubic foot basis, we are relatively competitive. Now, as the select board of residents might ask, what the heck is 100 per cubic feet? So this is a benchmark that is used by the American Water Works Association to benchmark communities on a comparative level when it comes to usage of water and sewer. Normally, you would look at something like gallons, or you look at a per unit cost basis. And unfortunately, there's not an apples to apples way to do that because some communities use less water than others. So the best way for us to compare is at 100 per cubic foot basis, which is what I presented to you. Moving on to the next slide, Peggy, if you go to slide 11, please. We are looking at the Springfield Water Sewer estimated annual cost. This is the 5-year forecast for Springfield Water Sewer's assessments to Long Meadow. The thing that I want to highlight for the board and for residents is specifically FY29. FY29 represents a $3.3 million $3.3 million assessment to the town of Long Meadow for its water usage. Now, what does this entail? So, if you are not aware, West Parish Treatment Plant is scheduled to be complete in FY 2028. This has resulted in about $100 million of debt borrowings for Springfield Water Sewer in FY 27 and another $152 million of debt service issued in FY 28. this will be a large hit to all communities part of Springfield Water's treatment system, including Agawam, East Long Meadow, Southwood, and Springfield. This is something that, when we look at water rates, sewer rates in the future, is something we want to keep in mind, as this is coming, and this is something that will impact our rate setting process. So I want to make sure that the board is aware that this is coming in the future and that it is a large impact to our rate process.
12?
If you want to go to, I think it's 18,
18?
go down to the cost comparisons. Thanks, Peggy. So just to highlight real quick, this is our defer and delay option that I'll call it, what this would look like for a low, average, and high user. Now, really, this is a marginal change at most for the users. If you look at a low user, their FY26 to FY27 rate would decrease about $38, about 8%. An average user would see about a $161 decrease, or about 11% decrease, and a high user would see about a $222 decrease, or about 8.5%. So this is, on an annual basis, these are real dollars that residents would see in their pockets. However, I don't think this is the correct option because it does nothing. We don't see any progress in the way of replacing valves or doing engineering work or putting any money towards retained earnings. And the board understands that this is the cost of doing business. So I want to highlight that this option exists, but it's not an option that I would recommend. Moving on to the second option, this is our half-funded option where we would put $125,000 for retained earnings and half fund our engineering and water valves, as well as our half funding for sewer as well. As these are combined rates, we have to look at how a low, average, and high user would impact by this. For a low user, the FY26 to FY27 rate would increase about 78 cents, which is not even a percent, it's about 0.2%. An average and high user would actually see decreases in their rate. And you might ask the question, why would an average and high user see decreases while a low user sees a slight increase? And this is due to the fact that the rate is now pushing more and more towards fixed costs, which are guaranteed by the system, versus usage costs. In the final option, we look at option 3, which sees about a $33 increase in the low user, a $2 increase in the average, and a $21 increase on the high user. Now, these are real dollars, so I understand the board's willingness to hear these options, and I hope the board has, feedback or considerations for these options. Now, the important thing I want to note is we have low, average, and high users, but what does that mean? The next slide looks at what that means. So, 86.5% of Long Meadow residents, our users, fall between more than low and up to average, or more than average up to high, which makes sense statistically. If you think about a standard deviation, one of those charts that you saw in your stats class back in college, the largest percent of your residents are going to be in that middle zone. So they're going to see that $2 to $80 increase or decrease in their average costs, or a $1 to $33 increase in their lower costs. So when we think about what this means for residents, it is not astronomical change in their rates on a year-to-year basis. And I think that really is to the credit of the board for the work that they've done in order to set the rates at a level that we now can officially catch up. And we are at the point now where we can kind of chart our own destiny and plan ahead versus trying to be reactive. I think this is really the key thing that I want to take away from this presentation, that there's a lot of work been done by the board to make sure that we're in a good place. I think you all should acknowledge that we've reached a good place, and now it's just deciding what to do with that.
Thank you, Ian. Can you remind us what the rate increase was for water and sewer last year?
Sure.
What slide is that in?
That's not on
Okay.
here, but pull it up really quickly. So for sewer, It was a 47% increase for water.
I think it was a 44.
44, yeah, thank you.
With 150% increases on the flat rate.
Yeah.
Thank you. So I appreciate all the work you put into this, and I know you worked hard with Lisa on this. So I'll open up to the board and see what we think. We set out with a goal to give ourselves, give the town some funds to do work with and to capture, or to try to make up some of the backlog of work. And we've put ourselves in a position where we can do it. It wasn't easy and painless, but I'm glad we did it. So we're in a much better place. I think also at the beginning of every one of these presentations, you should probably put our map showing all of our red roads. Because that's the one that I always think of, that, oh yeah, that was, that's why we're doing this, because we're in a precarious place, but we're getting better. So go ahead, Andrew.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think this board has been pretty unanimous in supporting this effort to get us in a better position. I appreciate you giving us these three options. I'm not entirely sure. I think you did it because we asked for it, but it seems pretty clear you're asking us and recommending option 3, which is kind of in line with what we've been trying to do, which is to, I mean, it doesn't make sense to me that we would do something good last year and then stop doing what we said we would do. Yeah, I mean, I think that to not fund what we think we need to do is already less than last meeting. Last meeting you said it was going to be 13%. Now it's only 7%. You know, and it's pretty much in line with what residents are accustomed to from last year. So I mean, I guess I'm glad that you gave us these options, but I think that from my view, it seems that to continue the course that we've set out on, option 3 is the best option. And my only question, I do think these slides were a little confusing, to be honest, but one of the questions I had was, if you want, so obviously I understand option 3 is you feel necessary to fund all of our projects, but I noticed that our retained earnings, we want to get to $1 million. It's at 800,000 something.
Yep.
So was the 250 like an arbitrary number because it's 125 is half of 250? Like, because then that would put us over.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously more is better, but
That's-
and we
that's
can
a
use
great
it. But
question.
I was just wondering where that number came from.
So
Was it
that
arbitrary?
250,000 came from the time bond study from back in March of 25, 25. Yeah. And I'm gonna try to represent this here, they had a graph that showed capital projects and retained earnings for the water sewer funds. They recommended about 250,000 of retained earnings year to year for us to catch up to that $1 million goal. Granted, we have
We're almost
reached
there.
that goal earlier than we anticipated because this was to be over 4 years, not 2 years. Now, as an aside, the board has policies in place that show a minimum of 500,000 for water sewer and a maximum of $1.5 million. So we have already reached the minimum board policy for water, and we're just shy of it for sewer. So it's important to make note that that's a great thing that we're already there, and I can understand if the board wanted to fund less towards retained earnings, being that we're already at that point. I can understand why.
Well, 250 would put us just barely over, so I'm not objecting to it. I was just wondering where that came from. And I think, you know, Ian also was spent a lot of time talking to me about this as well today. I felt I understood it better when we talked this afternoon before until compared to now, but it's fine. I think, yeah, I guess, yeah, I think it's a good, the data you've shown is good, and I think the question that I had that I thought you might mention was what it looks like in the future years if we chose option
Sure.
3.
Yeah,
And so I didn't know if you were going to add a slide or just comment
I
on
do
that.
have those slides. I wasn't sure if
Okay.
you would bring that up. So
What
if you,
number?
Or, yeah.
yeah, so if you go to 25, Or did you want just option 3, or do you
Well,
want?
yeah, I thought you were gonna say,
Sure,
oh, here's
so-
what happens if we do option 2. It's gonna go
Yeah.
up a whole lot later. We're just
Right.
kicking the can down the road.
So,
Option 3
so
in
this
more
is
level.
kind of more of the forecasting approach where we look at what future years look like. So for option 2, if we look at FY28 through FY30, we would see some rate impact in both fixed and variable rates if we wanted to keep up with our assumptions here. So what are our assumptions? Our assumptions are 4% increases in salaries. That equates to a 2.5 step, which is our normal step for employees, and a 1.5% for COLAs, a little under what we have done in the past. It also assumes for option 2 about a 0.25% increase in our expenses for the water enterprise fund. Normally, when we do the water or the budgetary kickoff in December, we do about a 0.5% increase in our expenses that we project. So this would be a little less than that. And that is projected over 3 years. So looking at what the impact of that will be over that 3 years, we know for a fact that come 29, we're gonna have that big hit with Springfield Water Sewer within our expenses. And additionally, we also have the water meters and water mains projects that are coming online in the next 2 years. So that'll be an increase to our debt service, which is why you see the increase in FY28 and FY29 before rates start to fall off in FY30. So for the board's understanding, the next 2 years, we should see some rate impacts on both option 2 and option 3. And I think it's more of the direction that the board wants to go now that we know this information. So looking at option 3 now, option 3 is slide 26, Peggy, for water. You'll see that it's very similar in terms of the fixed rates, and it's a little different in terms of the variable rates. And again, this is what I came up with. We can certainly modify the rates if need be, if the board wants a direction of going more in the fixed rate category or less in the variable rate, however that wants to be worked out. But in this option here, we'll see about a 55% increase in the fixed rates for FY28 to cover that debt service costs, as well as the debt service costs in FY29 and the Springfield Water Sewer impact that's expected, with the rates seeing a drop off in FY30 when rates start to stabilize. So all of this to say, in option 2 and option 3, they're very similar in terms of the rate impacts for FY28 and FY29. The difference lies in the fact that one of them is funding more retained earnings and one of them is funding full asks of the board, of the town. So when Sean and Lisa come to the board and explain the DPW budget, they come with their operational goals of what they want to get done, and option 3 allows them to get those operational goals done versus option 2.
So that's where the money's going, because it's not that different.
Yeah.
With regard to the rates.
Can I ask one question, just to make sure I'm keeping it straight?
Sure.
So with saying that it'll help fund what we want to do with option 3, for 2029, does option 3 also help us prepare for that?
So that is what
In
I'm trying to
combination?
do here, is once we reach FY29, this is assuming we use no retained earnings for reducing the impact of debt service or reducing rate volatility. The retained earnings policy allows the board to offset bonding costs, offset seasonal variability, address deficiencies. So it is something that the board has the ability to use retained earnings once we reach those goals
Okay.
to reduce further impact
Okay.
versus taking the full brunt of these rate impacts.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So I think I'm kind of of two minds on this. One, I definitely agree with Andrew on, we got to continue on doing what we're doing. We set out a goal. We shouldn't let off the gas here. On the other hand, I think that we really shocked people last year with the rate increase, despite all of our efforts to communicate. And if we can take some of the pressure off when people are feeling a lot of pressure otherwise, I think that is not the, I think that that is something we should look into. But on the other hand, we need to do what we need to do. And, but I think the way to do that, and doing this, I talked to Ian today about kind of want to request a hybrid approach here, is I think we should continue to increase the fixed costs and put a lot more into that, because that way everyone's getting their share. We are much more predictable, and if I am worried that this year, I'm not environmentally I'm happy, but from budget wise, I'm worried that people will water less and be a little more responsible on it. And I don't want us to rely a lot on variable rates and then come in a lot under what we thought we would. And so I think the way to do that is to increase the fixed rate, and so a modest increase on the variable rates and start pushing more on that fixed rate.
Can I make a quick comment on that?
Of course.
Totally understand. My only concern is that he's showing that with the fixed cost, which we totally agree in principle, but even if we chose option 3, the most fiscally expensive or responsible option, it's going up 55% the next year for fixed cost and 40% the next year after that. So it's already going to be going up because of the debt service and stuff. A great deal, like 30, like, I don't know, I feel like the fixed costs are going up a lot, no matter what we do.
But so let's say we 60% raise on fixed costs, in real dollars is a lot less than 7%
that may be
fixed
true.
cost or variable rate for somebody who uses 60 units
True.
a quarter. So, in that way, it is hard to picture.
And we went up 150 last year, so.
Right.
Partly because it was a low
But we
absolute dollar.
were at nothing.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
That's true.
So that's just where I'm coming in, and I know that you have the model, if you can monkey around with it, and give us some other options, and we can talk about, you said you could send me some options on that. And
Yeah,
I think that's
so
probably a good
if I
one.
could ask, would the board want to see options where there's little to no variable rate increase and almost entirely fixed rate increase? Or are you looking for a combination, like what?
Yeah, I think for curiosity's sake, and maybe if you can then translate that into the low, middle, high users for real dollars, I think that could be very useful.
But for Ian's sake, can I clarify, you're not suggesting any half funding. You're just saying, let's fully fund, like option 3 is the goal, but just change how much of that fully funded goal is from fixed costs versus, you're not suggesting, the option 2 is literally, he's calling it half funding.
Yeah.
Just to make it clear
we
for
all
him.
need to be on the same page with going back with Ian, because otherwise we're gonna say, can you move this over here a little bit, can you do that, and it's gonna just be super confusing. I'm already confused with some of the slides being changed.
Yeah, I apologize on that.
So I think, Josh, you know what I'm trying to say, like,
Yeah.
So we just need to give him the target, and then are you just saying you're interested in changing those 2 variables and how much each of them are part of it?
That's a good question.
Because if you're thinking of like the half funded, then it's doubles the number of options for the next meeting,
Right.
basically.
No, when I first looked at this, I said, I think that, I was just trying to think of a way to modestly raise water rates, while also recognizing that we can't just throw up our hands and give up. And so option 2, it still gets us a lot of the way, but if we stop doing projects, and I have this with the house project right now, it's only getting to get more expensive. So I think in the end, it would be foolish of things, it would be very contradictory to everything we've all been saying the last year to have fun. So yes, I think I would like to see different ways of doing the fun.
That's fine.
All right, and just really quick, because Andrew asked about forecasting. We've talked a lot about water. I'll quickly go through sewer, because sewer is what I'll say in a lot better situation. So Peggy, if you want to go to the next slide 28.
Wait.
Yeah, 29, because that would go option 2. So 29 and 30 show option 2 and option 3 for sewer. As you can see, we are at the point where we can do no variable rate increase and only fixed rate increases for the next 3 years. That is including debt service and Springfield Water increases. And if you look at option 2 versus option 3, the next slide, Peggy, you're looking at 4, 5, 6, and 28, 29, 30 to a 7, 7, 7. So really, it's, you know.
And this will make a real impact on people's bills at the end of the day. And
Yes.
that's.
I'm sorry, can you restate the point?
The
what you're trying to show us?
point with option 2 versus option 3 is there's very little rate difference if we were to half fund versus fully fund for sewer in the upcoming years in terms of future rate increases.
Yeah. So for anyone watching,
Okay.
the water rate up until, is it the or any quarter, up to 55 gallons or units, you're charged a water and a sewer rate, right?
In the summer quarters, so 2 of the 4 quarters, if you reach 55 units, you only pay for 55 units on the sewer rate. In the winter, you're paying for full on both, no matter
No matter
what
what.
you use.
If you're using 55 units in the winter, you got a leak.
You got a problem with something.
Or you're got a
Indoor
weird,
pool.
a weird hobby.
That has a leak.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, so if we, by limiting what we're doing here, that will be a very tangible impact on people. If they're expecting a jump like last year, they just won't get it because of this. That's gonna make a big difference no matter what we do on the water side. Dan, do you have something?
No,
Vinny?
not
Oh, yeah, so, thank you, Ian, for this presentation. So, I mean, I understand why you gave us option 2 versus option 3, and it was because of, I think, the residents' public reaction to the water increase. And I think that there might be value in something that we should think about in giving people relief maybe this year, and half funding versus fully funding. But I guess what I would like to know is option 2 versus option 3, half funding versus fully funding. What are we giving up if we half fund versus fully fund for a year?
Have it on the slide you want to, so I can talk about it. So some of the changes in the operating budget on the water side were putting valve exercising into the operating budget, which we had one capital expenditure a few years back, but we haven't done any of it essentially in years. And so when we go to isolate a leak, we can't a lot of times. It makes this chasing of the leak for huge neighborhood impacts, and we waste hours. So last Monday night, I think we looked to isolate a valve for 8 hours, 6 hours. So it's a massive impact. And then it breaks, and then we're caught doing an emergency repair. So our system has not been kept up the way it should be. And so we're way behind, and we're trying to start the process of catching back up. Half funding's still better than what we've been doing, but we're nowhere near where we should be. So that's on the valve exercising and the valve replacement. We need to spend a lot of money on it. On the hydrants, it's pretty obvious. You have a bagged hydrant in your front yard and the fire department can't use it, and it looks terrible. So we have these hydrants, they should be fixed and we should be utilizing them. So if we don't fund this, we don't exercise valves and we don't fix fire hydrants, at least not to the extent we have been. Moreover, the engineering money that's in there that is vital for grants also helps us sort of move projects along. When suddenly there's a Magnolia Circle where we have 10 breaks in one spot, we can start engineering of that and get the estimates in a few months to get ready to get funding to fix it. As well as, we had to use a portion of water engineering to do the work underneath the proposed roundabout for that MassWorks grant. So it helps us sort of do some judo, if you will, and it helps us get set up to do big projects and to hopefully get grants.
Okay, so option 2 is versus option 3. It's not necessarily saying, okay, we're not doing this one project. It's just we are making kind of cuts across the board. There are just going to be fewer valve exercises, fewer hydrant maintenance, deferred maintenance there, and fewer engineering done.
Yes.
Right. Okay. So it's kind of we're just taking a risk that we're not getting to these things fast enough.
We're
and
losing
that
momentum.
It could end up causing a bigger problem down the road if we don't get
Yeah,
to
it will. I mean,
Yeah.
we're living it. We're triaging, as Andrew has said all the time. And at some point, you've got to like stop triaging and actually try to start rebuilding the system in a functional manner. And so I think the budget that we presented or have presented, including those, is the correct budget. I don't think there's a lot of waste, and the money goes back to the funds if we don't use it. So it's not as if you're not going to have it back. I think it's good to have, and I think if we can get those projects done, they're important for the system. In the case of sewer, I think it's actually more important to slip line the decaying sewer lines than you can imagine. There's millions of dollars in savings to spend if we can slip line every year and get those hot spots taken care of, which will also save on maintenance. So that is an absolute need that I strongly recommend that we do that. And we've done no root control as well for years. So there's that money for the mains in the sewer also be to treat roots to get the sewer system functioning properly.
Yeah, I mean, I think with the sewer options, it seems clear that we should be doing option 3 just because there is not that significant
Yeah.
a difference between option 2 and option 3. So why not fully fund it? Why not do what we need to do? But thank you for explaining option 2 versus option 3. I think that, for me at least, at least that those concrete examples will make this makes it much clearer for me that option 3 is the better choice here.
And I think that we had the discussion early on about some of these line items being capital lines, but they really don't belong there. They should be in the operating budget. So we moved them into them because they should exist there, and we should be looking at these lines and say, oh, we got to do this. It shouldn't be a capital project that we do every couple of years. So just want to throw it out there. That's been a change in terms of the line items in the operating budget.
Yep. Yeah, completely agree.
Oh, sorry, were you still going?
No, I'm done. Yeah.
Just another question around, with option 3, because I was looking at FY '29 with Springfield. So just so I'm clear, so option 3 would basically lessen the burden on ratepayers, correct? We're not going to see as big of a jump come FY '29, and then we can possibly tail off after.
Yes, so the goal with the larger funding of retained earnings is that the board has the option of using the retained earnings to either reduce borrowing costs for our upcoming borrowings or to use it towards reducing the rate. Ultimately, the town would strongly recommend that the board use it towards capital projects because that only reduces our deferred costs. The board can take the option to use those funds to reduce the rates further and lesser the impact in FY '29 when we know that there's going to be large rate variability.
Right, but we don't have to use those funds to bring the rate down. We could just have a lower rate if we have
enough funds.
If we have
built
enough
up.
funds.
Yes,
So that's kind of that's what I'm. So this conversation just makes me start to think more and more. We're doing the right things. Previously, we're essentially buying down the rate almost over time.
Yep.
That was hurting us, put us behind. We're in a good spot now financially. Obviously, a lot of projects remain, but we might have to start taking a look at our policy as well. I with kind of where we're in a better spot, but I feel like we're gonna probably have to take that up as a board and see. I mean, maybe it's a question to you. Do you foresee that with where we're heading with these rates and funds that are available, that we might want to take a look at the policy?
Absolutely, and I know Lynn and I have started talking about a full look through the financial policies within the select board. I know Sean has told me specifically that our retained earnings policies are too low, given the size of our sewer system and what we have for usage, so it is something that I'm looking to take on in the foreseeable future.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you.
Anything else from board?
No, this was really helpful.
Lynn, did you have anything to add?
I just wanted to go back, just so we're crystal clear, because we're tentatively scheduled to have you vote on the 23rd. So for sewer, it seems like option 3, you're good with that one for the most part. Water, can you just tell me where you landed with that, so I know what we all go back and start working on.
Ian got it.
So I think what
As a
we,
lawyer.
I think, it feels like there's agreement that we want to go with option 3 for the water. But I think what we were curious to know is whether we could play around with the fixed rates a little bit more and just see if there were options around that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So further options within option 3.
3A.
Luckily, there's a
Two
deadline.
lawyers.
Could go on and on.
I was saying option 3A, 3B.
I think it's actually option 2.5. Yeah, it's,
And just regarding the public engagement on this, because I know it was something that came up a lot last year. After your meeting last week, we developed social media to inform residents on what you were doing in advance of a vote and how they could keep informed on that. So we pushed that out, and then it's also being publicized on LCTV as well. So that's what we've done so far. If you do want a reverse 911 call, we can schedule that. It's it would definitely be a different approach than what we've taken for some of your other votes, but I know this was.
when's our next mailed bill?
Yeah, I think that
May.
would be
Yeah, I think that's what we,
a more,
I don't want to do a reverse 911 unless everyone feels.
yeah,
comfortable,
I'm
so.
kind of against that as
But I
well.
think now people will, after opening one bill that
They'll look.
got their attention, I think that they'll, hopefully they're still opening bills and looking.
When is the next one going out?
May.
May, okay, great, before the year, so they'll
Right.
know.
And I also think that this year, I mean, looking at the bar graph that you created for option 3, most people's bills are gonna be very similar
Exactly.
to what they were last year, so I don't anticipate there to be as strong of a reaction this year. I mean, I think what we also saw was a lot of people pull up their water bills from the same quarter the prior year, and I think folks will do that and see that it's pretty
Yes.
similar,
Yeah.
and so I don't think it's gonna be that big of a shock or that many questions about
Sure.
it.
Josh, you made a point about water rates and water usage specifically. I think I'll speak for myself, but I know Lisa and Sean and I have talked about quarterly meetings about water sewer, because given the size of the enterprise funds, given the importance to both the board and the town, I feel that we should be meeting on this more just to go over where we are in the budget cycle in terms of how rates are doing throughout the year, so that the board is better prepared come this time to we're not having either as many meetings or there's just more consensus about what's going on so that we can ask better questions.
I think it's a good idea because we get the graphs over the summer over showing our water usage and our buys, and if we, I hate to draw you out at night, but if we can have more discussions on that, I think that's a good idea. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Oh, Lisa, you're not going anywhere.
I'm not going anywhere. So this is to follow up on last meeting, we talked about recycling carts. We talked about a little bit more that I'll get back to you later on, just in a week turnaround. We are now looking just for you to make a decision on pricing for if any recycling carts get broken or lost, and if people want to swap in the future, and should we be charging a transportation rate if we are needing to do the swapping for them. So in my memo, I re-put what the prices are for us to purchase the carts, and then what our recommendations were last meeting.
So, just so we're all on the same page. So replacement of future swaps, $75, any size you want. We're gonna charge you $75, even if you want a smaller one, which I think is fine. And I'm sure there will be people asking smaller ones, but mostly be people asking for the biggest.
Yeah,
So that's built in.
yeah.
And so the $15 transportation charge, that's if we already have one on hand and we have to buy one?
So that would be for the current people who have asked for a swap. Half of the people so far we've swapped and they've come to the office and done the swap themselves. It's now if we have still another 163 houses that say they can't transport it, and our staff is now gonna be needing to go full-time doing transports.
Yeah.
Should we be charging
Okay.
those residents a transportation?
And we already paid for those.
Yeah, well, yes, so
Like
we've already bought those
$10,000.
carts, and we sort of said in that period, if they signed up then, the swap is free to get the cart, but
Okay.
it's, how are they getting the cart?
$15 covers our time to
Yes,
load
for,
up a truck and go around.
yeah, one of our staff to go out and
I-
start.
Yeah, I think this is very reasonable.
Yeah.
I do too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do we have a motion to accept these prices?
I make a motion to accept the prices for recycling carts.
Why don't we do two motions? So for the,
Do you want to do for the
yeah,
cost for lost, damaged carts and future swaps?
yeah, why don't we do that
Okay,
first?
I make a motion for the cost, to set the cost for lost, damaged carts and future swaps.
Second.
Any further on that? All those in favor? Okay.
I'm going to make a motion to set the price for replacement carts and future swap requests and delivery charges for swaps.
Second.
All right, anything further? All those in favor? And just on both of those, we just note that it's the prices as set forth in the motion, just so we,
Thank you.
yep. Okay,
All right, thank you.
thank you, Lisa. This next one, this mysteriously stayed on the agenda. We voted on this last week.
That's what I
And
thought. Okay.
so then we have the environmental preferable purchasing policy. Lynn, do you want to discuss this?
Thanks. So this is just a pretty standard policy update. We've been doing it almost annually, and it's generally been just acknowledged by the town manager. It can be done that way, or it can be done through the select board. We wanted to bring it back to you tonight just as a way to also talk about the ongoing policy updates. So we haven't forgotten about this. We do know that we are going to do some assignments. One of the reasons we waited is Division of Local Services has put out a workshop that Ian and I are both signed up to attend. This is one that they had kind of teased to us last year that they were working on when we went to that financial forecast one. They have developed a booklet of best practice financial policies that they are distributing around to all of the Massachusetts communities, and they're doing a workshop to help you build those out in real time with the specifics for your community. So Ian and I are attending that in a couple weeks. So we didn't want to have the board spend a lot of time looking at the financial policies when we are potentially going to bring you a really robust set of updated policies. So we also know that we all have a lot on our plate at the moment, so this is something that could likely wait until after the budget, and maybe we close the warrant and then pivot to this. So wanted to bring the buy recycled policy to you as just a way to tell you we're still doing policy work, but you're not going to assign the full review until after you close the warrant. So this is, again, this is an annual policy. According to the policy book, it can be adopted by the town manager or select board. I have been doing it in years past. It's just an annual update we do that keeps us in the good graces of Mass DEP.
Okay. Do you want us to move on it tonight?
That'd be great.
Okay. All right, do we have a motion on this?
So are we making a motion
To
to
accept.
support this, or for Lynn to be the one to accept this?
I think that you want us to accept it?
Yeah,
It's
that's
just to
fine.
accept it? Okay, so I make a motion to accept the Town of Long Meadow environmentally preferable purchasing policy for March 2026.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? And I would just note for anyone, for any fiscal hawks, all this is subject to it being a good deal,
Yes.
fiscally responsible.
Yes.
Okay. Great. All right, seeing no further discussion, all those in favor? Thank you, Lynn. All right, moving on to new business, appointment of a PVPC Joint Transportation Committee alternate. We voted to, did we already vote on this for Tim?
That is for the MPO
Okay.
that he is part of. Tim is also our Joint Transportation Committee member. We're allowed to have an alternate. It's currently vacant.
Oh, I see.
And he is recommending that the appointment be made by the select board to appoint Louis Capellan is our engineering assistant.
All right, I will move to appoint Louis Capellan to the JTC alternate position for Long Meadow.
Second.
Any further? All those in favor?
Okay.
And finally, we have two zoning bylaw referrals. We have to send these to the planning board for hearing, and do we need any specific language on this, Lynn?
You don't, the memo is pretty self-explanatory. This is really just an administrative vote that you need to take to refer this to the planning board.
Okay.
I will move to refer the zoning bylaws identified in the attached memo to the agenda to the planning board.
Second.
Any further? All those in favor?
I will move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor? Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.